In the world of Europa Universalis V, 1337 is not just another year. It is a moment where history teeters on the edge of chaos, where the seeds of future empires, conflicts, and alliances are already sown. Imagine opening your campaign in this year. England is on the verge of claiming a French throne, France is preparing for a long struggle, and smaller states are maneuvering desperately to survive and thrive. Every move, every alliance, every war has meaning. And if you think 1444 or 1453 is the safe, classic starting point, you are missing out on one of the richest, most dynamic historical playgrounds in the game. The decisions you make in 1337 will echo for decades, shaping not only the fate of kingdoms but also your personal story as a player. Before we go further, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and have hit that bell icon, because the depth, strategy, and historical drama we'll explore from this starting date are something you don't want to miss. Europe in 1337 was a continent full of tension. France and England were heading toward what would become the 100 Years' War, a conflict that would last more than a century and leave lasting marks on both nations. Edward III of England had a claim on the French throne through his mother, Isabella of France. France, already recovering from economic difficulties and internal instability, was bracing for a long and costly confrontation. But the beauty of this starting point in Europa Universalis V is that it doesn't just put you into the center of a great war, it puts you in a dynamic environment where every smaller state can play a pivotal role. Burgundy, Aragon, Castile, Portugal, and even minor duchies and principalities in Central Europe all have the potential to rise in power or fall into obscurity based on your strategic choices. Unlike later starting dates, where much of the map is already settled, 1337 gives players the opportunity to influence the initial conditions of Europe's political landscape in profound ways. The political climate of 1337 is rich with complexity. Monarchs arranged marriages not for love, but for power, alliances, and survival. Dynasties were strategic assets, capable of uniting or splitting nations. Every kingdom was a chessboard, and every noble a piece with its own ambitions. In game terms, this creates a playground for diplomacy and intrigue. England must weigh its claim on France, but also balance domestic pressures from restless nobles and limited resources. France must consolidate its holdings, managing powerful regional lords while preparing to repel an English invasion. Smaller powers can exploit these tensions to gain autonomy, expand territories, or secure advantageous alliances. Players starting in 1337 will find that diplomacy is not just a background feature, it is central to survival and long-term success. Economically, Europe was emerging from the shadows of the Great Famine. Trade was beginning to expand beyond local markets, with northern Italian city-states like Venice and Genoa dominating Mediterranean commerce. Northern Europe relied more on agriculture, but trade nodes along rivers and coasts provided crucial income for ambitious states. In Europa Universalis V, these economic realities are not just flavor, they are critical to your strategy. Controlling a trade node, developing a province, or building infrastructure can provide resources to support armies, fund diplomacy, and fuel expansion. The uneven distribution of wealth and resources in 1337 presents both challenges and opportunities. Those who adapt quickly can dominate trade and grow powerful, while those who fail to respond risk stagnation or collapse. On the battlefield, 1337 is fascinating. Europe's armies were still largely feudal, composed of knights, levies, and early mercenaries. Sieges required patience, and battles relied on positioning, terrain, and morale. The longbow was becoming a key factor in warfare, and crossbows were widely used, changing the dynamics of both offense and defense. Players must manage armies with limited manpower, making strategic decisions about where and when to strike. Timing becomes essential. A single misstep can be catastrophic, while a well-timed offensive can secure strategic territories that shift the balance of power. Unlike later periods where gunpowder dominates, 1337 challenges players to make the most of traditional medieval armies and the first signs of evolving military technology. The Holy Roman Empire in 1337 is a complex network of semi-independent states. Dukes, princes, bishoprics, and free cities all owe nominal loyalty to the emperor, but in practice, most act independently. For a player, this creates a unique challenge and opportunity. Diplomacy, marriage, and intrigue can unify or destabilize regions. Mismanagement can lead to rebellion or fragmentation, but careful play can allow you to exert influence and reshape Central Europe. The empire's decentralized nature means that players starting in 1337 have immense agency. You can rise as an emperor, a regional power, or even manipulate the politics of other states to serve your long-term goals. It's a rich playground for both diplomacy-focused and military-focused players. Trade beyond Europe also matters. Northern Africa, the Mediterranean, and the edges of Europe offer unique opportunities for players to expand influence. Merchant republics such as Venice and Genoa hold powerful positions in trade networks, while the Iberian kingdoms of Castile and Aragon look toward exploration and colonization opportunities in the future. Maritime control, access to trade nodes, and early exploration can give ambitious players a significant advantage. Even in 1337, careful attention to the global picture can allow players to secure resources, wealth, and strategic positions that pay dividends decades later. Internal politics within kingdoms in 1337 were fragile. England's nobility demanded attention, as their support was crucial for any foreign campaign. France faced challenges in consolidating power among competing regional lords. Castile and Aragon balanced territorial expansion with internal consolidation. As a player, domestic politics cannot be ignored. Revolts, succession crises, and disloyal vassals can derail even the best-laid plans. Investing in stability, improving relations with powerful nobles, and strategically intervening in regional disputes are all necessary for long-term survival and growth. 1337 places a player in a situation where internal and external pressures are tightly interwoven, creating a living, breathing map where every choice matters. Starting in 1337 means preparing for the 100 Years' War. Players must anticipate the outbreak, decide alliances, and position forces strategically. Do you back Edward III, support France, or carve out your own path? Every decision impacts not only your own realm but the broader European theater. Timing is crucial. Early diplomacy, strategic marriages, and careful management of vassals can turn small states into regional powers and shape the outcomes of centuries-long conflicts. Unlike later starting dates where much of the map is frozen, 1337 allows the player to set the stage, creating new opportunities or rewriting history entirely. Religion plays a critical role in 1337. Catholicism dominates Western Europe, but regional beliefs, local customs, and papal influence can significantly impact legitimacy and alliances. The Pope can excommunicate rulers, bless campaigns, or mediate disputes. Respecting religious authority, managing church relations, and balancing piety with politics are essential. Neglecting religion can spark unrest or weaken claims, while skillful navigation of faith can strengthen power, stabilize realms, and create diplomatic opportunities. This layer of complexity enhances immersion and challenges players to think beyond simple conquest. Personal stories matter in 1337. Every monarch, advisor, and general has motivations, ambitions, and fears. Players can manipulate, inspire, or replace them to achieve strategic goals. Europa Universalis V is not just about armies and provinces, it is about people, decisions, and consequences. Starting in 1337 allows players to influence the fates of these characters, shaping their legacies and altering the flow of history. Every victory, defeat, alliance, and betrayal becomes part of a living narrative that is uniquely yours as a player. Trade, diplomacy, and warfare are interconnected in 1337. Northern Italy's city-states, Iberian kingdoms, and the emerging power of the Hanseatic League all provide opportunities for strategic alliances, economic expansion, and military support. Players can influence trade, fund armies, and negotiate favorable treaties to strengthen their positions. The interplay of economy, diplomacy, and military power in this starting year creates a rich strategic environment where careful planning and adaptability are rewarded. Those who ignore one aspect risk being overwhelmed by unexpected threats or missed opportunities. The global context also matters. While Europe faces its internal conflicts, trade networks reach across the Mediterranean to Africa, the Levant, and beyond. These distant connections can provide wealth, resources, and strategic leverage. Players who expand their vision beyond the immediate European map can gain advantages that smaller, inward-focused states cannot. Control of trade, access to resources, and diplomatic influence in distant regions can tip the balance of power at home and abroad. In 1337, the seeds of future global influence are already present, waiting for the right player to cultivate them. Internal and external pressures collide in 1337. England's claim on France creates tension that will erupt into decades of warfare. France must balance defense with consolidation. Smaller states must navigate between alliances, rivalries, and survival. Every decision reverberates, affecting not just immediate outcomes but the course of history for generations. Europa Universalis V players starting in 1337 experience this delicate balance firsthand, gaining the opportunity to guide the trajectory of nations from the very beginning. The stakes are high, the challenges are real, and the rewards for skilled play are immense. By starting your campaign in 1337, you step into a Europe at a crossroads. You face rising tensions, economic challenges, military innovation, and complex diplomacy. The choices you make will shape the continent for centuries. Every alliance, war, trade agreement, and internal reform carries weight. This starting date is more than just historical flavor. It is a platform for deep, strategic, immersive gameplay. Whether your goal is to dominate Europe, guide a small state to greatness, or explore alternate historical paths, 1337 provides the perfect starting point for an unforgettable experience. So, if you're ready to engage with the full depth of European politics, warfare, economy, and diplomacy, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, and prepare to dive into a world where every decision counts, every move matters, and the story you create can change the course of history. In 1337, the stage is set, the players are ready, and the challenge awaits. The only question is, how will you shape the world from this incredible starting point? As we leave behind the initial tensions of 1337, the continent of Europe is already simmering with conflicts that will define the next decades. The 100 Years' War looms large over England and France, but it is not the only theater where ambition, strategy, and opportunity collide. Players starting in 1337 face a Europe where every move, every marriage, every alliance, every war, has ripple effects that can last for generations. The beauty of this starting point is that nothing is set in stone. Borders, loyalties, and even dynasties can be reshaped by a clever hand. Before diving deeper, remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the story unfolding from 1337 is one that blends strategy, history, and pure player agency in a way few starting dates can match. In France, the reign of Philip VI is already under pressure. His kingdom is still recovering from economic strain and the social aftershocks of famine. Nobles are restless, regional governors often act independently, and the army is preparing for a conflict that will test every province. For players controlling France, the challenge is balancing internal consolidation with external defense. Provincial stability is fragile, meaning that investing in infrastructure, fortifications, and advisors is just as important as raising armies. Unlike later starting dates, where France's borders are relatively secure, 1337 requires foresight, careful diplomacy, and active management of both domestic and foreign affairs. Meanwhile, England, under Edward III, is eyeing the French throne. His claim through his mother, Isabella, is a spark that can ignite a century-long war. Players taking England in 1337 must weigh multiple factors: the readiness of their army, naval superiority, the loyalty of nobles, and the economy's ability to sustain a prolonged conflict. Unlike later campaigns, where England may be more stable or already engaged in wars, 1337 allows players to shape the beginning of the conflict, choosing when and where to strike. Should you immediately assert your claim on French territories, or consolidate power at home first? Every choice carries risk and reward. Trade and economics are central to the strategy. Northern Italy is a hub of commerce, with Venice, Genoa, and Florence controlling key trade nodes. Investing in trade, securing trade routes, and forming alliances with merchant republics can provide a powerful economic base. Players can leverage trade to fund armies, support diplomacy, and gain influence across Europe. Meanwhile, the Iberian Peninsula is preparing for its own rise. Castile and Aragon are balancing expansion with internal politics, seeking control over trade in the Mediterranean while navigating dynastic marriages and claims. For players, trade is not just wealth, it is power. The Holy Roman Empire continues to be a puzzle of fragmented authority. In 1337, the emperor holds nominal power, but regional princes, dukes, and bishoprics often act independently. For players seeking to rise within the empire, strategic marriages, alliances, and subtle manipulation of imperial elections are critical. Even a minor misstep can destabilize your ambitions, while careful maneuvering can place you at the center of imperial power. It is a sandbox of politics, where ambition, patience, and cunning are rewarded. In Eastern Europe, Poland and Hungary are navigating their own complex realities. Poland must manage relations with Lithuania, whose future union or conflict could shape the region for centuries. Hungary, strategically positioned along trade and military routes, faces pressures from the Balkans and the growing influence of neighboring states. For players in these regions, expansion is possible but must be carefully balanced against diplomacy and domestic management. Strategic marriages, alliances, and claims can secure long-term dominance if executed skillfully. Meanwhile, the Mediterranean is alive with potential. Venice dominates trade and naval power, while Genoa rivals it across the seas. Smaller Italian states, like Milan and Florence, seek both protection and opportunity through alliances or mercenary forces. Players controlling these city-states must navigate trade, diplomacy, and warfare simultaneously. Naval strength can protect trade routes, allow for overseas expansion, and provide leverage in conflicts across the continent. The choices in 1337 are wide, and each can dramatically shape both local and global outcomes. Religion also plays a subtle but powerful role. The Catholic Church holds influence over legitimacy, diplomacy, and internal stability. Papal actions can excommunicate rulers, support crusades, or influence elections within the Holy Roman Empire. For players, respecting or manipulating religious authority can provide strategic benefits, from stabilizing your realm to undermining rivals. Mismanagement of religion, however, can lead to revolts, weakened claims, and diplomatic isolation. The armies of 1337 are built on tradition, yet poised for change. Heavy cavalry, knights, and infantry remain central, while innovations like longbows and crossbows begin altering battlefield tactics. Sieges are slow and require patience, as fortifications hold strong against early medieval armies. For players, this means careful planning, supply management, and strategic patience. Rushing into conflict can be disastrous, while well-timed offensives can secure decisive gains. Military engagement in 1337 is as much about preparation as it is about combat. Domestic stability is equally critical. England's nobility may be eager for war, but unrest can destabilize the realm. France must manage regional lords who often hold significant power. Smaller states risk rebellion or influence from stronger neighbors. Players must carefully allocate resources to maintain loyalty, improve relations, and prevent uprisings. Domestic management in 1337 is intertwined with diplomacy and warfare, creating a dynamic, living map that reacts to player decisions in realistic ways. Exploration and colonial potential are on the horizon. While immediate colonization is limited in 1337, the Iberian powers are beginning to look westward. Strategic positioning, naval development, and resource management can lay the foundation for future overseas empires. Players who anticipate these trends early can secure significant advantages in the decades to come, shaping the future of global trade and influence. The challenges of 1337 also include succession crises. Dynastic marriages, claims, and deaths can destabilize kingdoms or create opportunities for expansion. Players must anticipate potential claims, strengthen dynasties, and prepare for unexpected events. A single death or disputed inheritance can shift the balance of power dramatically. Managing succession is a subtle but essential part of mastering the 1337 start date. In 1337, the world is alive. Europe is a web of conflict, diplomacy, trade, and ambition. Every province, every ruler, every event has significance. Players must balance military, economic, political, and religious considerations simultaneously. Choices matter, and consequences are long-lasting. Unlike later dates where the map may feel more fixed, 1337 allows players to actively shape history, guiding nations through decades of uncertainty, war, and opportunity. The beauty of this starting date lies in its freedom. Players are not confined to a predetermined path. England can rise as a dominant power, France can consolidate and expand, smaller states can maneuver to become influential, and ambitious players can rewrite history entirely. Diplomacy, trade, war, and domestic management are all interconnected, creating a deep, immersive experience. Every campaign feels alive, responsive, and historically plausible. In summary, 1337 is more than a starting date, it is a dynamic, living stage. The continent is filled with potential, conflict, and opportunity. England and France are poised for war, smaller states are ready to assert influence, trade networks are emerging, and dynasties are navigating uncertain futures. For players in Europa Universalis V, this starting date offers unmatched strategic depth, historical immersion, and the freedom to shape the future. Success requires foresight, adaptability, and mastery of the interconnected systems of diplomacy, economy, warfare, and domestic politics. So, if you are ready to engage with one of the most complex and rewarding starting points in Europa Universalis V, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and prepare to take control of your destiny. In 1337, history is yours to write, empires are yours to build, and the challenges are as real as they are thrilling. Every decision matters, every strategy counts, and every victory or defeat shapes the unfolding story of Europe and beyond. This is more than a game, it is a living historical experiment, and your campaign in 1337 begins now. As the years unfold from 1337, Europe becomes a stage of shifting power, complex diplomacy, and sweeping wars that will echo for generations. The 100 Years' War is no longer just a spark, it becomes a furnace shaping nations, alliances, and rivalries. England, France, and their neighbors are locked in a contest of strategy, ambition, and endurance. Every province is alive, every noble has an agenda, and every decision made by players will ripple across decades. This is the real depth of Europa Universalis V's 1337 start, freedom to influence history while navigating its complexities. And before we dive deeper, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and press the bell, because the next journey is as thrilling as it is unforgiving. In France, the early challenges of Philip VI's reign turn into crises of survival and opportunity. Rebellious nobles, strained resources, and the looming threat of English armies demand careful attention. Players controlling France must prioritize internal stability while preparing for long-term conflict. Building fortifications in key provinces, investing in advisors, and managing unrest are not optional, they are critical. Each decision affects morale, income, and readiness for the inevitable clashes with England. By securing domestic loyalty and consolidating regional power, France can transform from a kingdom under threat to a dominant European power. England, meanwhile, faces choices that will define centuries. Edward III's claim on the French throne is a catalyst, but premature war could be disastrous. Players must consider naval strength, alliances, and the state of their economy before launching campaigns. Strategic timing is everything. Launch too early, and France's defenses may crush your forces, delay too long, and political pressure at home may force your hand. Every marriage, alliance, and mercenary contract matters. The 1337 start allows players to shape the 100 Years' War from its earliest sparks, creating a unique historical path that no other starting date provides. Trade is another decisive element. Northern Italy, the Low Countries, and Iberian ports provide immense opportunities. Venice and Genoa control vital trade nodes, and securing access to these can finance armies, fuel diplomacy, and enable ambitious campaigns. Players can invest in trade fleets, protect trade routes, and even manipulate rivals' income to gain advantage. The Mediterranean becomes a chessboard of commerce, with every decision affecting both wealth and influence. Trade is not just profit, it is power that can decide the fate of kingdoms. The Holy Roman Empire continues to be a complex political web. Princes, dukes, and bishoprics hold significant independence, and the emperor's power is mostly nominal. For players, rising within the empire requires a careful mix of diplomacy, intrigue, and patience. Supporting certain candidates in imperial elections, forging alliances through marriages, and managing relations with neighboring states can yield long-term benefits. Conversely, neglecting internal politics can result in lost influence, rebellion, or even the rise of a rival state at your expense. In 1337, the empire is a playground for players with cunning, strategy, and foresight. Eastern Europe also presents unique opportunities. Poland and Hungary must navigate delicate relations with neighbors and balance expansion with stability. Lithuania, with its potential union with Poland, can become a powerful partner, or a formidable rival. Players in these regions must carefully time wars, marriages, and alliances, as each choice can dramatically alter the power balance. The Balkans, with their fragmented states and Ottoman pressures on the horizon, demand constant attention. Expansion is possible, but missteps can be catastrophic. Dynasties, succession crises, and marriages are key tools in shaping the map. A carefully planned marriage can secure alliances, claims, or entire territories. Conversely, neglecting succession can lead to civil wars or unexpected claims by rivals. In 1337, these elements are not just cosmetic, they are central to the survival and growth of any nation. Players must anticipate the future, plan generations ahead, and sometimes take risks to achieve long-term gains. Warfare in 1337 is brutal but strategic. Heavy cavalry, infantry, and early gunpowder units define battles, while sieges test patience and planning. A poorly timed attack can result in devastating losses, while a well-prepared siege can turn the tide of a war. Players must balance army composition, morale, and supply lines. Fortifications are critical, as poorly defended provinces can become staging grounds for invasions. The interplay of geography, unit composition, and timing makes warfare in 1337 immersive and highly rewarding. Religion plays a subtle but powerful role in shaping strategy. The Catholic Church's influence affects legitimacy, diplomacy, and domestic stability. Excommunication, papal support, or crusades can alter the political landscape. Players who understand and manipulate religious authority gain advantages over rivals. Neglecting religion, however, can lead to uprisings, weakened claims, and diplomatic isolation. In 1337, faith is a tool as powerful as armies or coins. The wider world also begins to beckon. While immediate colonization is limited, Iberian powers are beginning to look beyond Europe. Establishing naval supremacy, securing trade, and preparing for future exploration are critical. Players who anticipate global opportunities can lay foundations for overseas empires that will dominate the coming centuries. These early decisions in 1337 resonate far into the late game, making foresight essential. Throughout all this, domestic management remains key. Nobles, merchants, and clergy all have agendas. Unrest, rebellions, and factional pressures demand attention. Players must maintain stability while pursuing expansion, war, and trade. Mismanagement can collapse a kingdom from within, while careful planning ensures growth, power, and resilience. 1337 challenges players to master a living, breathing world where every choice matters. The beauty of 1337 lies in its freedom. Players are not following a fixed path, they create history. England can rise to dominance, France can consolidate power, Italy can thrive through trade and diplomacy, and small states can maneuver into influence. Every campaign is unique, shaped by strategy, risk, and opportunity. The 1337 start is unmatched for its strategic depth, historical immersion, and dynamic potential. As we conclude this epic journey from 1337, remember that history is yours to rewrite. Wars can be won or lost, dynasties can rise or fall, and empires can be built from nothing. Your choices matter, your strategies define the map, and the challenges are both real and thrilling. Europa Universalis V allows you to step into history, master its complexity, and create a legacy that endures. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our future historical guides and strategy insights. Share your strategies in the comments, and tell us which nation you will lead from 1337 onwards. Your empire starts now, and history is waiting for your command. Don't just watch history, make it.